The Velen scout ship moved slowly through the empty darkness of space. It was called the Gentle Dawn, and it was small compared to most ships. Only 12 crew members worked on board. They had been flying through this unknown part of the galaxy for many weeks now, looking for planets with valuable minerals. Commander Torin stood in the middle of the bridge. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that glowed softly under the ship's lights. Like all Velens, he had 4 arms and large dark eyes that could see in very low light. He had served in the Velen Collective for 80 cycles, which was a very long time. In all those years, he had never felt afraid during a mission. Space was vast and mostly empty. There was nothing out there that could surprise him anymore. Or so he thought. Navigator Sella sat at her station, watching the sensor screens with tired eyes. She was younger than Torin, with lighter silver skin and quick hands that moved across her controls with practiced speed. Her job was to find safe paths through space and to watch for anything unusual. For most of the journey, there had been nothing to see except stars and rocks and empty void. But now something appeared on her screen, something that made her freeze. "Commander," she said. Her voice was very quiet, almost a whisper. "There is something on the long-range sensors." Torin turned to look at her. "What is it? An asteroid? A comet?" Sella shook her head slowly. Her 4 hands were trembling. "No, Commander, it is a ship, a very large ship." The other crew members stopped their work. Everyone turned to look at the main viewing screen. Sella pressed some buttons, and the image appeared for all to see. In the cold blackness of space, lit only by distant stars, there floated a vessel unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was enormous. It was painted in a color so dark that it seemed to swallow all light around it. The shape was harsh and angular, with no smooth curves or elegant lines. It looked like a weapon. It looked like something built only for destruction. "What is that?" whispered Malin, the science officer. He was the oldest member of the crew, with deep wrinkles on his silver face. In his long life he had seen many strange things, but nothing like this. Torin stepped closer to the screen. His hearts were beating fast now. Yes, hearts. Velens had 2 of them, and both were pounding hard against his chest. "Sella, give me the dimensions of that vessel." Sella's fingers moved across her controls. When she saw the numbers, her face went pale. "Commander, the ship is 3,000 meters long." 3,000 meters. The Gentle Dawn was only 200 meters. This unknown vessel was 15 times larger than their entire ship. "What about power readings?" Torin asked. "What kind of energy is that thing producing?" Sella checked her instruments again. Then she checked them a second time because she could not believe what she was seeing. "Commander, the power readings do not make sense. That ship is producing energy equal to a small star." Silence fell over the bridge. No one moved. No one spoke. They all just stared at the dark shape on the screen. Malin walked slowly to his science station and began running scans. "The hull is made of materials I do not recognize. The armor is incredibly thick, and those shapes along the sides. Commander, I believe those are weapons. Many, many weapons." Torin felt cold. "Can you identify the origin? Is it from any known civilization?" "No," Malin replied. "It matches nothing in our records. This is a completely unknown species." Sella suddenly gasped. "Commander, look, there is writing on the hull." She magnified the image. On the side of the massive black ship, painted in sharp white symbols, were words in a language none of them could read. The symbols were angular and strong, like the ship itself. The writing said, "KRSBAKHO, Republic of Korea Space Navy." Of course, the Velens could not understand these words. To them, it was just strange alien writing. But the sight of it made everything more real. This was not a ghost ship drifting through space. This was an active vessel with a name and a crew and a purpose. "Should we run?" Sella asked. Her voice shook with fear. "Commander, we should leave this place immediately." Torin considered her words carefully. Part of him wanted to agree. Every instinct told him that this massive ship was dangerous, but running might make things worse. If this unknown species was hostile, their small scout ship could never escape something so powerful, and if they were peaceful, running might be seen as an insult. "No," Torrin said finally. "We stay, we watch, we wait." Inside the Biko, life continued as normal. The ship was so large that it had its own streets, its own gardens, its own small city of people living and working together. Over 3,000 crew members called this vessel their home. Captain Una Park stood on the main bridge, holding a cup of hot coffee in her hands. She was 42 years old, with short black hair and calm brown eyes. She had been a captain for 10 years, and she had seen many strange things in the depths of space. She had learned to stay calm no matter what happened. "Captain," said Lieutenant Jinho Lee from his station at the tactical console. He was young, only 28, but very skilled at his job. "We have detected a small vessel nearby. Unknown design. It does not match anything in our databases." Una took a slow sip of her coffee. "Distance. 40,000 kilometers. It is not moving. It seems to be just watching us." Una nodded thoughtfully. This was not the first time they had encountered unknown ships. The galaxy was vast, and there were many species that humans had not yet met. Some were friendly, some were not. The key was to approach each situation with caution but without fear. "Any signs of weapons powering up?" she asked. Jinho checked his screens. "No, Captain. The ship is very small. Our sensors show minimal weaponry. It appears to be a scout or research vessel." "Then they are explorers," Una said, "just like us." She set down her coffee cup and straightened her uniform. "Open a communication channel. Let us introduce ourselves." Lieutenant Sujin Kang, the communications officer, pressed several buttons on her console. "Channel open, Captain." Una cleared her throat and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Park of the Korean Republic ship Biko. We come in peace. Please respond." On the gentle dawn, the transmission arrived like thunder. The voice was deep and powerful, vibrating through the ship's speakers with a force that made the Velen crew flinch. They had never heard anything like it. The sounds were harsh and strange, full of sharp edges and heavy tones. But the universal translator quickly converted the words into something they could understand. Torrin took a deep breath and activated his own communication system. His voice was shaking, but he forced himself to speak. "This is Commander Torrin of the Velen Collective. We mean no intrusion into your space." There was a brief pause. Then the alien voice came again, softer this time, almost gentle. "No intrusion taken, Commander. We are explorers just like you. Perhaps we can be friends." Torrin did not know what to say. Friends. With whatever was aboard that terrifying black ship, he looked at his crew. They all stared back at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Perhaps," Torrin finally replied, "perhaps we can." But deep in his heart, he felt only fear. Something told him that this encounter would change everything. The universe had just become a much more dangerous place. And somewhere in the darkness, the Biko waited silently, its 3,000 crew members going about their daily lives, completely unaware of the terror they had already caused. The communication channel stayed open for several minutes. Commander Torrin spoke carefully with the alien captain, exchanging basic information about their respective species. The human's voice was strange to hear. It was deep and solid, like rocks grinding together. Every word seemed to carry weight. Captain Una Park asked simple questions at first. Where was Torrin's ship from? What was the purpose of their mission? How long had they been traveling? Torrin answered each question honestly. There was no point in lying to something so powerful. When the conversation paused, Torrin muted his microphone and turned to his science officer. "Malin, what have you learned about these creatures?" Malin was hunched over his instruments, running scan after scan of the massive black ship. His 4 hands moved quickly, pulling up data and analyzing results. When he finally looked up, his face was pale with shock. "Commander, I have completed biological scans of the vessel. What I have found is very disturbing." The crew gathered closer. Sella left her navigation post to stand beside Torin. Everyone wanted to hear what Malin had discovered. "First," Malin began, "there are over 3,000 life forms aboard that ship." Torin nodded slowly. He had expected a large crew for such a massive vessel. "Go on." "They are carbon-based organisms, similar to us in that way, but the similarities end there." Malin pulled up a diagram on the main screen. It showed a strange creature standing on two legs. It had 2 arms, a round head, and a body covered in some kind of fabric. "This is what they look like. They call themselves humans." Sella studied the image. "They only have 2 arms. How do they function with just 2 arms?" "I do not know," Malin admitted. "But that is not what concerns me. Look at this." He changed the display to show internal biology. "They have a dual circulatory system, 2 separate blood-pumping organs working together. This gives them incredible endurance. They can operate at high activity levels for extended periods without rest." Torin frowned. "How extended?" "Based on these readings, a human could remain active and alert for up to 20 hours before needing sleep, and they only need 6 to 8 hours of sleep to fully recover." The crew murmured in disbelief. Velans needed at least 12 hours of sleep each day. The idea of a creature that could stay awake for 20 hours seemed impossible. But Malin was not finished. "There is more. Their skeletal structure shows clear signs of predator evolution, forward-facing eyes for tracking prey, strong jaw muscles, muscles designed for explosive movement and sustained pursuit. Commander, these creatures evolved as hunters." The word hung in the air like poison. Predators. The Velans had encountered predator species before, but they were rare in the galaxy. Most predator species burned out quickly. They were too aggressive, too violent, too wasteful with resources. They usually destroyed themselves long before achieving space travel. "How is that possible?" Sella asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Predators cannot build civilizations. They cannot cooperate. They cannot." "And yet they have," Malin interrupted. "Not just a civilization, a space-faring military. That ship out there is not a trading vessel or a science ship. It is a warship, a weapon of war crewed by 3,000 predators." Torin felt dizzy. He reached out to steady himself against a console. "Are they in some kind of hibernation? Perhaps they only wake a few at a time." Malin shook his head slowly. "No, Commander, I checked multiple times. They are all awake, all 3,000 of them, all the time. They are moving around, working, eating, talking. They live together in that ship like a colony of insects, except they are not insects. They are apex predators." The bridge fell completely silent. Every crew member was trying to process this information. A ship full of predators, thousands of them, working together, building weapons, exploring space. It violated everything they understood about the universe. Torin unmuted his microphone. "Captain Park, may I ask a question?" The human's voice came back immediately. "Of course, Commander. Ask anything you like." "Your species. How did you achieve space travel? How did you build such advanced technology?" There was a pause. When Captain Park spoke again, she sounded slightly amused. "We worked together. We built schools and universities. We shared knowledge. We made mistakes and learned from them. It took us a very long time, but we figured it out eventually." Torin glanced at Malin. The science officer was recording everything. "You worked together, all of you." "Well, not always," Park admitted. "We had many conflicts throughout our history. Wars, disagreements. Sometimes we set each other back by centuries, but we always found a way forward in the end." Wars, the word translated perfectly through the communication system. Torin knew what war meant. Large-scale organized violence between groups, mass death, destruction. "Your species, fought wars against itself. Many times, Park said. Her voice was calm as if she was discussing the weather. Our recorded history covers about 10,000 years. During that time, we had thousands of wars. Some lasted for years. Some lasted for decades. We invented terrible weapons to use against each other, things that could destroy entire cities in a single moment. Sela grabbed Torin's arm. Her grip was tight with fear. "Commander," she whispered urgently. But Torin could not stop. He needed to understand. "And yet you survived. Your species survived all of this violence." "We did more than survive," Park replied. "We grew stronger. Each war taught us something. Each conflict forced us to adapt. Eventually, about 200 years ago, we finally stopped fighting each other. We united under common goals. Now we explore the stars together." Torin's mind was racing. A species that had spent thousands of years practicing violence, learning from it, getting better at it. And now they were out here in the depths of space with ships full of weapons and 3,000 always-awake predators. "Captain Park," Torin said slowly, "you mentioned that your ship has weapons. Why does an explorer need weapons?" There was a long pause before the human answered. "Because we learned the hard way that not everyone in the universe is friendly. We hoped that space would be different from our home planet. We hoped we would find only peaceful species out here. But that was not the case." "You have encountered hostile aliens before." "Several times. There are species out here that attack without warning, species that take slaves, species that destroy others for sport." Park's voice hardened. "We decided long ago that we would never be victims, we would never be slaves, we would never be prey." Torin looked at the image of the massive black warship on his screen, the harsh angles, the countless weapons, the hull designed to absorb light and hide in darkness. This was not a ship built by creatures who feared the unknown. This was a ship built by creatures who wanted the unknown to fear them. "Commander Torin," Park continued, "I understand this might be overwhelming for you. Your species seems peaceful. You have a small ship and a small crew. You are scientists, not soldiers. I want you to know that you have nothing to fear from us." Torin wanted to believe her. He truly did. But everything he had learned in the past hour made it impossible to relax. "How can we trust that?" he asked. "How can we trust that your species will not harm us?" Park's answer was simple. "Because we choose not to. Every day, my crew makes a choice to help others instead of hurting them. We have the power to destroy, but we use it to protect. That is what separates us from the monsters we fight against." On the bridge of the gentle dawn, Torin shared a look with his crew. They were all terrified. They were all overwhelmed. But somewhere beneath the fear, there was also a small spark of hope. Maybe these humans were telling the truth. Maybe they really were friendly. Maybe the most dangerous species in the galaxy had chosen to be kind. "Captain Park," Torin said finally, "perhaps we should meet in person. I would like to see your ship. I would like to understand your people better." The human's response was warm and welcoming. "We would be honored to have you, Commander. I will send coordinates for our docking bay. And do not worry. I promise you will be safe." Torin ended the communication and turned to his crew. "Prepare a shuttle. Sela and Malin, you will come with me." "Commander," Sela protested, "we do not know what we will find over there. It could be a trap." Torin sighed heavily. "If they wanted to destroy us, they could do it from here. They do not need to trap us. We go, we learn, and we return. The collective needs to know about these humans." As they prepared the shuttle, Torin took one last look at the Biko through the viewing window. It floated in the darkness like a sleeping predator, waiting for something to wake it. And Torin was about to walk right into its jaws. The small shuttle crossed the distance between the two ships in less than 10 minutes. Commander Torin sat in the pilot's seat, his 4 hands gripping the controls tightly. Behind him, Navigator Sela and Science Officer Malin sat in nervous silence. None of them spoke. There was nothing to say. As they approached the Biko, its true size became clear. The Velen shuttle was like a tiny insect flying toward a mountain. The black hull stretched endlessly in every direction, covered with sensor arrays and weapons and things they could not even identify. Up close, the ship was even more terrifying than it had been from far away. A voice came through their communication system. It was calm and professional. "Velen shuttle, you are cleared for landing in Docking Bay 7. Follow the guide lights." Torin saw small lights blinking along the hull, showing them where to go. He followed the path carefully, flying past massive gun turrets and missile launchers. Each weapon was larger than his entire shuttle. He tried not to think about what those weapons could do. The docking bay doors opened like the mouth of some giant beast. Inside, harsh white lights illuminated a space that could have held their entire scout ship with room to spare. Torin landed the shuttle gently on the marked platform and shut down the engines. "We are here," he said quietly. "Stay close to me. Do not touch anything. Do not make sudden movements." The three Velens walked down the shuttle ramp together. The air inside the beacon was warm and slightly dry. It smelled different from their own ship, filled with strange scents they could not identify. The gravity felt heavier too. They had to work harder to move. Three figures stood waiting for them at the bottom of the ramp. Torin stopped walking. His heart began to pound. Humans. They were even larger in person than they had looked in the scans. The tallest one stood nearly 2 meters high, with broad shoulders and thick arms. He had short black hair and a wide smile that showed many white teeth. The other two were slightly smaller but still massive compared to the Velens. "Welcome aboard the Biko," the tall one said. His voice was deep but friendly. "I am Commander Tiwu Shin. This is Lieutenant Sujin Kang and Ensign Doyun Choi. We are very pleased to meet you." Torin forced himself to step forward. "I am Commander Torin. These are Navigator Sella and Science Officer Malin. We thank you for your invitation." Tiwu extended one of his hands toward Torin. The Velen remembered learning about this custom during the communication exchange. It was called a handshake, a greeting ritual. Torin reached out with one of his upper hands and let the human grip it. The pressure was enormous. Even though Tiwu was clearly being gentle, Torin could feel the incredible strength in those fingers. This creature could crush his bones without even trying. "Your ship is very impressive," Torin managed to say. Tiwu laughed. The sound was loud and sudden, making all three Velens flinch. "Thank you, she is a good ship, strong and reliable. Would you like a tour? I can show you around." Torin nodded. He did not trust his voice to speak. The tour began immediately. Tiwu walked ahead, talking constantly about the ship and its systems. Lieutenant Sujin walked beside the Velens, answering their questions in a soft voice. Ensign Doyun followed behind, watching everything with careful eyes. They saw the crew quarters first. Thousands of small rooms lined the corridors, each one containing a bed, a desk, and personal items. Photographs hung on walls. Strange objects sat on shelves. Torin realized that each room belonged to a different human. 3,000 rooms for 3,000 predators. "Your crew lives here permanently?" Malin asked. "Many of us do," Sujin explained. "This ship has been our home for 3 years. We have families on Earth, our home planet, but we choose to serve out here. It is our duty and our honor." Families, the word made Torin pause. These creatures had families, parents and children, loved ones waiting for them at home. They walked through a large open space filled with tables and chairs. Humans sat everywhere, eating food and talking loudly. Some of them looked up as the Velens passed, their forward-facing eyes tracking the aliens with obvious curiosity. A few waved or smiled. "This is the main dining hall," Tiwu said. "We serve 3 meals a day here. The food is not great, but nobody goes hungry." Torin noticed something disturbing. On many plates he could see chunks of some kind of flesh, brown and cooked but clearly meat. These humans ate other living creatures. Malin noticed it too. Your species consumes animal protein. Yes, Tiwu said casually. We are omnivores. We eat plants and animals both. Our bodies need protein to stay strong. Predators who ate flesh. Of course, Torin should have expected this, but seeing it made everything more real. These creatures killed other living things and consumed their bodies for nourishment. The tour continued to the weapons deck. This was what Torin had been dreading most. Tiwu led them through heavy doors into a massive chamber filled with machines of death. These are our railguns, Tiwu explained, pointing to enormous metal tubes that stretched for hundreds of meters. They fire solid projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. A single shot can punch through almost any armor. He moved to another section. Missile bays. We carry 200 missiles, each one capable of devastating a small moon. And over here are the point defense systems for shooting down enemy weapons. Sella was crying softly. Tears ran down her silver cheeks. She had never seen anything so terrible in her life. These weapons were not defensive tools. They were instruments of genocide. Why, she whispered, why do you need all of this? Tiwu's expression became serious. Because we learned what happens when you are not prepared. Our history is full of examples. Nations that chose peace were conquered by nations that chose war. Peoples that refused to fight were enslaved or destroyed. We swore that would never happen to us again. Lieutenant Sujin stepped closer to Sella. Her voice was gentle. I know this is frightening. When I first saw these weapons, I felt the same way. But they exist so that we never have to use them. They exist so that anyone who thinks about attacking us will change their mind. But you have used them, Malin said. It was not a question. Sujin nodded slowly. Yes, we have. There are species out here that cannot be reasoned with. Species that see kindness as weakness. When we encounter them, we give them a choice. Leave us alone or face the consequences. Some choose poorly. Torin thought about the Kreth Dominion. He had heard stories about them. Slavers who raided peaceful systems and took captives. Monsters who destroyed entire civilizations for profit. Could even they stand against this human warship? The Kreth, he said suddenly. Have you encountered the Kreth Dominion? Tiwu's face darkened. We have heard of them. They operate in this region of space. Slavers, yes. They are the most feared force in 17 systems. Their fleets are enormous. Their cruelty is legendary. The three humans exchanged looks. Tiwu smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator thinking about prey. We would very much like to meet these Kreth, he said. We have strong opinions about slavery. The tour ended on the main bridge. Captain Yuna Park was waiting there, standing beside her command chair. She was smaller than the other humans, but something about her presence made her seem larger. She radiated authority. Commander Torin, she said warmly, I hope my officers have taken good care of you. Torin bowed his head respectfully. They have been excellent hosts, Captain. Your ship is remarkable. Thank you. I understand you have seen our weapons. I imagine that was difficult for you. It was, Torin admitted. Your capacity for violence is beyond anything my people have ever imagined. Yuna nodded thoughtfully. That is fair. We are dangerous. I will not pretend otherwise, but I want you to understand something important. She stepped closer, looking directly into his eyes. We did not choose to be this way. Our planet forced us to evolve as predators. Our history forced us to become warriors, but we also evolved other things. Compassion, empathy, the ability to love and to protect. Those things matter just as much as our weapons. Torin wanted to believe her. He searched her eyes for any sign of deception. He found none. I hope you are right, Captain, for all our sakes. Yuna smiled. Stay with us a while longer, Commander. Get to know my crew. See how we live when we are not fighting. I think you might be surprised. Before Torin could answer, alarms began to scream throughout the ship. Red lights flashed everywhere. The bridge erupted into activity as crew members rushed to their stations. Battle stations. announced a voice over the speakers. Unidentified hostile fleet detected. All hands to combat positions. Yuna's expression changed instantly. The warmth disappeared, replaced by cold focus. She was no longer a diplomat. She was a warrior. "It seems we have visitors," she said. "Commander Torin, you might want to stay and watch. This could be educational." Torin felt his heart racing. He had no idea what was coming, but he knew he was about to see what humans truly were when pushed to fight. He was terrified. The main viewing screen flickered to life, showing the space around the beacon. At first, Torin saw nothing but stars and darkness. Then, one by one, ships began to appear. They emerged from fold space like ghosts materializing from shadow. First 3, then 6, then 12. 12 warships, each one bristling with weapons, formed a line facing the beacon. "Kreth Raiders," Lieutenant Jinho Lee announced from his tactical station. 12 vessels, standard attack formation. They are powering weapons. Torin felt his blood turn cold. He recognized those ships. Every being in this region of space knew them. The Kreth Dominion had terrorized 17 star systems for generations. They took whatever they wanted. They killed whoever resisted. No one had ever stopped them. 12 against 1, Sella whispered beside him, her voice cracked with terror. "Commander, we need to leave. We need to escape now." But there was nowhere to go. Their small shuttle was docked deep inside the beacon. Even if they could reach it, they would never survive crossing the battle space. They were trapped. Commander Tiwu Shin appeared beside them, his expression calm. "Stay here on the bridge. You will be safe. Our shields can handle anything those ships throw at us." "You cannot fight 12 warships alone," Torin protested. "Even a vessel this large cannot." "Watch," Tiwu interrupted. His voice was quiet but confident. "Just watch." Captain Yuna Park settled into her command chair. She did not look afraid. She did not look worried. She looked focused, alert, ready, like a predator who had just spotted prey. "Jinho weapon status," she said calmly. All railguns charged and ready. Missile bays standing by. Point defense systems online. "Doyan shields." Ensign Doyan Choi checked his console. "Shields at 100%, Captain." "Sujin, any communication from the Kreth?" Lieutenant Sujin Kang shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. They are approaching in attack formation without attempting contact." Yuna nodded. "Then they have made their choice." She leaned forward slightly. "All hands, this is the captain. We have hostile contacts inbound. Standard engagement protocol. Let us show these raiders what happens when they pick the wrong target." The Kreth fleet moved closer. They were confident. They had numbers on their side. They had taken down much larger prey with fleets half this size. One human ship, no matter how big, could not stand against 12 experienced warships. That confidence would be their doom. "Enemy weapons firing," Jinho announced. On the screen, Torin watched as dozens of energy beams lanced out from the Kreth ships. They were bright and deadly, weapons that had destroyed countless vessels across 17 systems. The beams struck the beacon's shields and scattered harmlessly into space. "Shield integrity holding at 97%, Doyan reported. Captain Yuna did not even flinch. "Railguns target the lead ship. Fire." The beacon shuddered as its main weapons activated. Torin felt the vibration through the deck plates. On the screen, streaks of light shot out from the human warship, moving so fast they were almost invisible. The lead Kreth vessel exploded. Not damaged, not disabled, exploded. One moment it was there, and the next it was an expanding cloud of fire and debris. The railgun rounds had punched clean through its shields, through its armor, through everything. Nothing remained but scrap metal. "First target destroyed," Jinho said. His voice was completely calm, as if he was reporting the weather. "Acquiring second target." The Kreth fleet scattered. Their confidence vanished instantly, replaced by panic. They had never encountered anything like this. Their weapons were useless. Their numbers meant nothing. They were not fighting a victim. They were fighting a monster. 3 ships attempting to flank, Jinho reported, launching missiles. The Biko released a spread of weapons from its missile bays. 20 small shapes raced across the void, trailing fire behind them. The 3 flanking ships tried to evade, but the missiles were too fast, too smart. They tracked their targets with merciless precision. 3 more explosions lit up the darkness. Torin could not speak. Beside him, Sela had stopped crying. She was staring at the screen with wide eyes, her mouth hanging open. Malin was trembling violently, his 4 hands pressed against his face. The remaining Kreth ships broke formation completely. They were trying to escape now, trying to flee back into fold space. But the Biko was not going to let them. "Full pursuit," Captain Yuna ordered. "Do not let any of them escape." The massive warship surged forward with impossible speed. How could something so large move so fast? It defied everything Torin knew about physics. The Biko chased down the fleeing raiders like a predator running down wounded prey. Railgun fire streaked through space. Missiles launched in coordinated waves. One by one, the Kreth ships died. Some exploded instantly. Others broke apart slowly, their hulls torn open by the devastating human weapons. A few tried to fight back, but their attacks barely scratched the Biko's shields. The entire battle lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes to destroy 12 warships. 11 minutes to defeat a force that had terrorized 17 systems. 11 minutes to prove that humans were the most dangerous species any of them had ever encountered. When it was over, Captain Yuna took a slow sip from her coffee cup. She seemed completely relaxed, as if she had just finished a routine exercise instead of a deadly battle. "Jinho, damage report." "Minimal shield damage, Captain. No hull breaches. No casualties. We expended 47 missiles and approximately 200 railgun rounds." "Any survivors from the enemy fleet?" Jinho checked his sensors. Several escape pods detected. Approximately 30 Kreth personnel still alive. Yuna nodded. "Pick them up. They will answer questions about their slaving operations. Make sure they are treated humanely, but keep them secured." Torin finally found his voice. It came out as a croak. "You destroyed them all in minutes. You killed hundreds of Kreth warriors in minutes." Captain Yuna turned to face him. Her expression was not proud or boastful. If anything, she looked tired, sad even. "I take no pleasure in killing, Commander. None of us do, but those ships were raiders, slavers. They have destroyed peaceful worlds and taken innocent people as property. We gave them a chance to surrender, and they chose to attack instead." "You never contacted them," Torin said. "You never asked them to surrender." "They came out of fold space in attack formation with weapons hot," Yuna replied. "That is not the action of someone who wants to talk. We have dealt with Kreth raiders before. We know how they operate. Negotiation is not in their nature." Sela stepped forward. Her voice was shaking badly. "Captain, my people have lived in fear of the Kreth for generations. They have raided our colonies. They have taken our people as slaves. We thought nothing could stop them." Yuna's expression softened. "I am sorry for what your people have suffered, truly I am, but I want you to understand something. The Kreth are not special. They are not unique. The galaxy is full of predators like them, species that take what they want and hurt anyone too weak to stop them." She stood up from her chair and walked toward the viewing screen. The debris field spread across the darkness, all that remained of 12 warships. "Humans know about predators. We were predators ourselves once, but we made a choice. We decided that strength should be used to protect, not to dominate. We decided that our weapons would be shields for the weak, not tools of oppression." She turned back to face the Velans. "I cannot promise that humans will always make the right choices. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. But I can promise you this. As long as the Biko flies, we will fight against anyone who preys on the innocent, the Kreth, the slavers, the tyrants, all of them. Torin looked at the human captain, looked at her crew, who were already back at their stations, running routine checks and preparing for whatever came next. They had just killed hundreds of enemies, and they were treating it like a normal day at work. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you do this? Why risk your lives for people you have never met?" Yuna smiled gently. "Because someone has to, because we can. Because when we look in the mirror, we want to be proud of what we see." She paused. "The universe is dark and dangerous, Commander. Someone needs to light a fire. Someone needs to push back against the darkness. We have the strength to do it, so we do." Commander Torin thought about his small scout ship, about his peaceful people, about the generations of fear they had lived under, always hiding from predators like the Kreth. Maybe, he thought, maybe these humans were not the monsters he had feared. Maybe they were something else entirely. Maybe they were the fire the universe needed. 6 months had passed since the battle. Commander Torin stood in the great hall of the Velen High Council, facing the most powerful leaders of his people. The room was vast and ancient, with walls carved from blue crystal that glowed softly in the low light. Hundreds of council members sat in curved rows, their silver faces turned toward him with intense focus. Torin had spent 3 weeks aboard the Biko after the destruction of the Kreth fleet. He had watched the humans work. He had eaten meals with them. He had learned their games and heard their stories. He had seen them laugh and argue and comfort each other. Now he had returned to his home world to deliver his report. The High Arbiter, the oldest and wisest of the Velen leaders, leaned forward in her seat. Her skin was darker silver than the others, lined with centuries of age. "Commander Torin, you have spent more time with these humans than any other Velen. The Council requires your full assessment. Are they a threat to our collective?" Torin took a deep breath. This was the question he had been expecting, the question that would shape his people's future. "High Arbiter," he began slowly, "the humans are the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. Their ship alone could destroy our entire defense fleet. Their weapons technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their soldiers are apex predators evolved over millions of years to hunt and kill." Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Fear rippled across the silver faces. Torin raised his 4 hands for silence. "But that is not the complete picture. Please, allow me to explain what I observed." He told them about the battle against the Kreth. The council members listened in stunned silence as he described how 12 warships were destroyed in 11 minutes. He told them about the weapons, the shields, the impossible speed of the human warship. Many of the older council members looked sick with fear. Then he told them something else. After the battle, the humans rescued the surviving Kreth from their escape pods. 30 enemy soldiers who had tried to kill them just minutes before. The humans could have left them to die. No one would have blamed them. But instead, they brought them aboard, gave them food and water and medical treatment, and secured them in comfortable cells. The High Arbiter frowned. They saved their enemies. Why? Because their laws require it. The humans have rules about war, rules about how to treat prisoners, rules about protecting the helpless, even when those helpless ones were trying to kill them moments before. They call it honor. Torin continued his report. He told the council about the meals he had shared with the crew, how Lieutenant Sujin had taught him a card game called poker, how Ensign Doyun had shown him pictures of his young daughter back on Earth, how Commander Tiwu had laughed at Torin's questions about human food, then spent an hour explaining the difference between cooking styles from different regions of their planet. "These are not mindless killers," Torin said. "They love their families. They miss their homes. They tell jokes and play games and get homesick. In many ways, they are just like us." "But they are predators," interrupted a young council member. "You said so yourself. They evolved to hunt and kill." "Yes," Torin agreed. "And that makes what they have achieved even more remarkable. They did not have to become peaceful. Their nature pushed them toward violence. But they chose something different. They built laws to control their aggression. They created systems to channel their hunting instincts into productive work. They made a conscious decision to be better than their biology. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I spoke with Captain Una Park many times during my stay. I asked her why humans choose to protect other species, why they risk their lives fighting slavers and raiders when it would be safer to stay home. The council leaned forward, eager to hear the answer. She told me that humans have a concept called guilt. They feel bad when they could have helped someone but chose not to. This guilt follows them, haunts them, makes them uncomfortable. So they help others partly to avoid that feeling. But she also said there was something deeper, something called empathy. Torin had struggled to understand this concept at first, but now he thought he grasped it. Empathy is the ability to feel what others feel. When humans see someone suffering, something in their brain makes them feel an echo of that suffering themselves. It is not just understanding that someone is in pain. It is actually feeling that pain as if it were your own. He looked around the chamber. This empathy evolved alongside their predator instincts. It was how they formed groups for hunting, how they cooperated despite their aggressive nature. And over thousands of years, they expanded this empathy beyond their own species. They began to feel the suffering of all living things. The High Arbiter spoke again. You are saying that these predators, these weapon builders, these warriors, they feel our pain as their own. Yes, Torin said. That is exactly what I am saying, and it is why they fight against the Kreth, not for profit, not for territory, but because they cannot bear to know that innocents are suffering when they have the power to stop it. Silence filled the chamber. The council members looked at each other with expressions of confusion and wonder. Torin delivered his final assessment. The humans are terrifying, High Arbiter. They are the most dangerous species this galaxy has ever produced. If they chose to conquer, nothing could stop them. If they chose to destroy, entire civilizations would fall. He straightened his posture and spoke with conviction. But they have chosen to protect. They have chosen to use their terrible strength in service of the weak. I do not fully understand them. I am not sure anyone ever will. But I believe in my heart that they are exactly what this galaxy needs. The High Arbiter was silent for a long moment. Then she asked the question everyone was thinking. And if they change their minds? If someday they decide to stop protecting and start conquering? Torin had thought about this during many sleepless nights aboard the Biko. He had watched the humans carefully, looking for any sign of hidden cruelty, any suggestion that their kindness was just a mask. He had found nothing, only genuine warmth, only real compassion, only a sincere desire to do good in a dark universe. Then may the stars have mercy on us all, he said quietly, because the humans certainly will not. The council voted 3 days later. The decision was unanimous. The Velen Collective would pursue full diplomatic relations with humanity, trade agreements, scientific exchanges, a formal alliance. When Captain Una Park received the official communication packet, she was sitting in her ready room, reviewing reports from the ongoing liberation of Kreth slave worlds. The humans had been busy in the past 6 months. They had freed over 2 million captives from 17 different species. They had dismantled the Kreth Dominion's entire slaving infrastructure. They had shown the galaxy that there was a new power in the universe, one that would not tolerate cruelty. Lieutenant Jinho Lee knocked on her door. Captain, message from the Velen Collective. Yuna read through the diplomatic packet slowly. A smile spread across her face. Good news, Jinho asked. The best. Full recognition, trade agreements, and a formal alliance. It seems Commander Torin gave us a positive review. Jinho grinned. I liked him. For an alien, he was pretty brave. Coming aboard a strange ship full of strange creatures takes courage. It does, Yuna agreed. She looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, more first contacts waited, more civilizations to meet, more tyrants to oppose, more innocents to protect. Jinho, set course for the Outer Rim. Intelligence reports say there is a pirate fleet operating near the Telos system. Some independent colonies have been asking for help. Yes, Captain. Jinho saluted and headed for the bridge. Yuna finished her coffee and stood up. She straightened her uniform and walked out to the command deck. Her crew was already at their stations, ready for whatever came next. Status report, she called out. All systems nominal, Captain, Commander Tiwu responded. The ship is ready. Yuna settled into her command chair. She thought about Torin and his small scout ship, about the fear in his eyes when he first saw the Biko, about the wonder that replaced the fear after he got to know her crew. She thought about all the species they had met, all the lives they had saved, all the battles they had fought and won. She thought about Earth, so far away, where billions of humans lived in peace because soldiers like her crew kept the darkness at bay. Helm, she said, take us out. The Biko turned toward the unknown, its engines burning bright against the endless night. The most dangerous ship in the galaxy, crewed by the most dangerous species ever to reach the stars. And every day, they chose to be heroes instead of monsters. That was what made them human. Out in the darkness, new challenges waited, new enemies to face, new friends to make. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and terrors alike. But humanity was no longer alone. And the universe would never be the same.